Funny story. Joe's dinner comedy show.
It was a cool Friday evening. Jake and Emily's home smelled of roasted chicken, garlic, and herbs. The table was polished, glasses sparkled, and candles flickered gently. Emily stood back to admire her work. Jake crossed his arms and whispered,
I just hope Joe behaves tonight.
Emily gave a soft laugh.
Helen is always polite, but Joe is unpredictable. 1 minute he's charming, the next minute, well, you know.
Jake shook his head.
I'm still not over the barbecue last summer. He called my grill cute and told everyone he could build a bigger one from scratch.
Emily sighed.
At least it will be memorable.
Meanwhile, Joe and Helen were driving across town. Helen sat with her arms folded. She knew exactly what could go wrong.
Joe,
She began firmly.
please tonight. No bragging, no awkward stories, no embarrassing comparisons.
Joe smiled confidently.
Relax, Helen. I'm the perfect guest. Call me Mr. Manners.
Helen raised her brow.
Last week, you called yourself Mr. Charm. Then you told the neighbors their soup tasted like dishwater.
Joe shrugged.
I was being honest. People respect honesty.
Helen muttered.
People respect silence, too.
Joe laughed loudly.
Oh, come on, they love me.
Helen sighed, looking out the window. The doorbell rang. Emily opened the door with a bright, welcoming smile. Joe and Helen stepped inside. Joe scanned the living room with exaggerated drama.
Wow, this place looks great. Almost as nice as ours before the renovation.
Emily froze for a beat, then managed a polite smile.
Thank you, Joe.
Helen added quickly,
He means it looks beautiful.
Jake helped Joe with his coat.
Good to see you both. Can I get you a drink?
Joe nodded eagerly. Jake handed him a glass of wine. Joe swirled it in a dramatic way, sniffed, and said,
Not bad. I usually drink something a little more refined at home, but this will do.
Helen kicked his foot under the table. Joe didn't notice. Emily asked Helen gently.
How was the drive?
Helen smiled, tired but polite.
Smooth. A little traffic, but nothing too bad.
Joe interrupted.
I handled it like a pro. Other drivers follow me. I set the pace.
Helen muttered.
Or block the lane.
Jake chuckled quietly. Emily returned with salads.
Here we are, fresh greens with my homemade dressing.
Everyone thanked her except Joe. He poked the lettuce and announced,
Interesting flavor. You know, I once created my own dressing. People begged me to sell it.
Helen whispered.
Nobody begged.
Jake smiled politely.
So, Joe, how's work?
Joe leaned back, voice full of confidence.
My boss offered me a management role. I turned it down. Too stressful. I already lead people naturally. Titles don't matter.
Helen muttered.
He leads the fridge just fine.
Emily nearly laughed into her napkin. Joe went on, waving his fork.
Everyone at work comes to me for advice. I'm like a mentor, a guide.
Helen whispered.
A distraction.
Emily quickly asked Helen about her job, but Joe cut in again.
Last week, I solved a problem no one could fix. The printer jammed. I opened it, touched one thing, and boom, it worked.
Jake nodded politely.
Handy skill.
Helen shook her head.
It broke again 5 minutes later.
Emily covered her laugh with a sip of water. Emily carried in the roast chicken, golden and steaming. The smell filled the room. Everyone admired it. Before she could reach for the carving knife, Joe clapped his hands.
Don't worry, I'll carve it. I'm great with a knife. People say I cut like a chef.
Helen whispered urgently,
Joe, please let Emily.
but Joe already grabbed the knife. He stabbed the bird with dramatic force. His first slice tore the skin. A wing slid off the platter and onto the tablecloth. Jake's eyebrows shot up. Emily gasped. Helen closed her eyes. Joe chuckled.
See, that's efficiency.
He tried again. This time the knife slipped and stuffing spilled across the table. Emily forced a polite smile.
Thank you, Joe. I'll take it from here.
Joe leaned back proudly.
No problem, I just wanted to demonstrate.
As everyone began eating, Joe launched another story.
In college, I was almost on the basketball team. The coach said I had real talent, but he didn't want me stolen by another league.
Jake raised a brow.
Really?
Joe nodded.
Yes, height doesn't matter, it's all about skill.
Helen whispered to Emily.
He was cut after the first tryout.
Joe went on.
At work, I'm the fixer. People say, ask Joe. Computers, printers, coffee machines. I fix it all.
Jake smiled.
Impressive.
Helen muttered.
Last week, he unplugged the toaster and called it repaired.
Emily nearly laughed into her glass. Joe scooped mashed potatoes, took a bite, and nodded.
Not bad, but my recipe is better. Add a splash of soda and some ketchup. People love it.
Emily blinked.
Soda?
Joe nodded proudly.
Yes, gives it a special kick.
Helen sighed.
It gives it a stomachache.
Jake hid his laugh behind his wine. Then Joe tried the bread rolls.
Nice texture. You know, I once baked bread, too. It was so good my neighbor asked for the recipe.
Helen whispered.
He bought it from the store.
Emily pressed her lips together to hide her smile. Emily presented her apple pie with pride.
This is my grandmother's recipe.
Joe cut himself a large slice, took a bite, and said slowly,
Not bad, but my grandma makes it better. She never used a recipe. She just knew.
Helen groaned quietly.
Here we go again.
Joe leaned forward.
I've eaten a lot of pies. I can taste the difference. Northern apples, southern apples, I know them all.
Jake chuckled.
You should be a judge on a baking show.
Joe nodded.
Judge, I'd win the show.
Emily's smile tightened, but she kept it polite. Joe then turned to Helen.
Remember my blueberry pie last year?
Helen sighed.
You bought it from the bakery.
Joe grinned.
Yes, but I sliced it beautifully. Presentation matters.
Jake and Emily exchanged amused glances. Emily poured tea, hoping to settle the evening. Joe sipped, frowned, and said,
Tastes like hot water with leaves.
Helen sighed.
That's literally tea, Joe.
Suddenly, Joe's eyes lit up.
Do you have a piano? I can play.
Without waiting, he sat down and began pressing keys with dramatic flair but little harmony. Emily asked kindly.
What are you playing?
Joe grinned.
It's jazz. Very modern, you have to feel it.
Jake covered his mouth to hide a laugh. Helen whispered.
You're feeling the wrong notes.
Joe kept playing loudly, convinced he was impressive. Emily clapped politely when he finished. At last, the evening began to wind down. Everyone was full, and the table looked like a small battlefield of plates, crumbs, and empty glasses. Joe leaned back in his chair, patting his stomach with a proud smile.
Great dinner. Next time, you come to our place. Helen makes the best grilled cheese sandwiches in town.
Helen's face turned bright red.
Joe, that's not a proper dinner. That's a snack.
Joe grinned, completely serious.
Hey, simple food can be world-class. You'll see.
Emily chuckled, shaking her head.
Well, sometimes the simple things really are the best.
Jake raised his glass and added with a grin.
We'll look forward to the gourmet grilled cheese experience.
Helen sighed, covering her face with her hand, while Joe looked pleased as ever. Dinner with Joe was never about the food. It was about the stories, the bragging, and the awkward charm that only Joe could bring. Jake and Emily would remember this evening for years, retelling the chaos of the chicken, the endless stories, and Joe's modern jazz at the piano. And Helen, once again, had survived Joe's dinner comedy storm.